Hey guys, Dan Hood, Big DH 2000 here. Now, Toolman Tim asked me a few questions today, and one or two others that have asked me a couple of questions over the past 2 or 3 weeks. And I realized that by talking about orbital sanders and air compressors and all that, I failed to talk about air compressors and how to choose an air compressor to match and all of that. Okay. Here's the big thing. Okay. This orbital sander right here is pretty much the cheapest piece of the equation. Sometimes even cheaper than the hose itself. Okay. Translation: buy this last. Once you have the rest of the system and you know what the capabilities of your system are and the system you were able to afford, then find a sander that matches it. Okay? Now understand, go in and look at the sanders and understand what the absolute minimum is that these sanders can produce. Okay? Now, one thing, these sanders go anywhere from $50 for a cheap model all the way up to $500-600 for a top end model. Okay? Just be careful. The hose, just make sure, generally I tell everybody to get the 3/8 diameter, okay? And usually 300 psi is pretty good, okay? I usually put quick connects on the end, okay? So that I can quickly connect everything, okay? Ace, my son's here. He's come down to watch. Shh, you wait. Daddy's telling him something important, okay? Really, you can hook this hose straight up to the compressor. I actually have a pressure regulator. You don't really need it. The only reason I've got it on the system is because I already had it and I used it for when I did a lot of painting, because it also takes out water pressure, which you don't need to worry about. Okay? So that's just the hose you need. Now, let's go down here. This is my air compressor over here. Okay? I'll read off the specs on it. It's a two horsepower. It does about 4 cubic feet per minute at 90 psi. 4.5 cubic feet per minute at 70 psi, and 5 cubic feet per minute at 40 psi. Now here's what's important. There's two ways you can go with a compressor. You can get those really big tall ones with the absolutely massive tanks, and the cubic feet per minute can be really low because the chances of you running out of air with as big as those tanks are is almost nil. So as long as that thing just barely stays ahead of the tank, you're fine, okay? Because there's no way, you'd have to sand for over an hour probably to run that tank out. Here's the problem. That tank takes forever to fill, and if you're a hobbyist, you shouldn't leave your tanks full at night. Even if you're a professional who uses them all the time, you should drain them every night. Well, it's one thing if you're using a big old thing like that all day long to drain it at night. That's part of your closeout. Xander, go wait over there. Sorry, he's being crazy. That's fine. You know, you pull the thing, you take 10 minutes to empty it at night, 20 minutes to empty it at night. That's fine. But the other option is to go with a really small one that fills up quick, because you're a hobbyist. You don't have time to wait for that tank to fill up. It fills up quick, but it has a higher cubic feet per minute, okay, to match the tools. So it can't store much air in here, okay? The air disappears quick. So you need one where the motor really cranks and pushes out air fast, okay? That's what you're after. Here's the problem. They're both about the same cost. You get one with a high CF cubic feet per minute output, it's going to cost you because it's got a huge engine on it or a huge motor on it to push it. And you get the other one, you're paying for the massive pressurized tank. Now, I don't like the really tall ones. Hey, I don't like the really tall ones or the really big ones because you got to bolt them down. They have a tendency to fall over. And when they fall over, you know, when tanks fall over, they're dangerous. They can break things off and they can kind of explode, okay? So, yeah, we're adding humor over here with my son. So that's what I do. You're going to find that most of these oscillating sanders give you a reading at 90 psi. They tell you what they prefer. This one prefers about 4, so I'm really on the edge with my compressor, because my compressor does about 3.8. So every once in a while I got to stop and let the tank fill up. But you know what? In some ways that's good, because it gives your arm a break. You guys will understand when you start grabbing onto one of these what that's like. Now, if I was to advise you and you're going to buy a tank, I'd tell you try to find one that can put out 6 cubic feet per minute at 90 psi, because a lot of these oscillating sanders are in the 4 to 5 range, and you want to be just a touch above them so that you don't ever have to stop. There was one other thing I was going to say about these, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Okay, CFM, PSI, the fact that you buy this last. I'm trying to think. There was one other important thing I needed to say about these things. There is. That's another thing. When you buy these, okay. Let me get this all set up better again. Okay. When you buy this Orbital sander, there's various speed controls on them. Okay. You want one with speed controls. You also want to put a drop of oil, of air tool oil, in every single time you use it. Every day you use it. So just do it once a day. Okay. There's one important thing I know I'm missing, and now I can't remember it. Let me pause for a second and see if I can think of it. Okay, I remembered what it is. A lot of you are, some of you may be used to using power tools. Most people who have used air tools usually use some kind of ratchet or some kind of, for pulling bolts and whatnot and nuts off of a car. That's what a lot of you use them with, an impact wrench. Now remember, an impact wrench it uses the air infrequently. Okay, it's like and then it stops. Okay, and then it stops. The air compressor has time to catch up with the machine. Okay, and you rarely use that machine continuously. The problem with orbital sanders, you pretty much are using them almost continuously when you use them. Okay, but more importantly, impact tools, best way I'll say it is there's pressure things that the air pressure pushes against. Okay, the orbital sanders, a lot of them are a very open system. I'm not going to describe it exactly perfectly, but a lot of times it's very similar to trying to blow you know those little fun pinwheels you make and you blow them to spin them. It's a lot more similar to that. It's not exactly that, so don't you guys who are crazy and know all the innards of that say that, but it's a very open, free-flowing system. Okay, so they just take air like crazy. They chew up air like nothing you've ever seen. I've used many an air tool, and nothing, not even spraying paint, eats up as much air as one of these. Okay, that's just me telling you, it's almost the hardest tool to find an air compressor for because of how much it eats up. Okay, now an air compressor is a big expense. You're probably talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 to get a decent one to go with this. They do make electric ones in 6 inches that are flat. They run about $100-150. That may be your cheaper option. Okay, take your time, figure out what you need. Hopefully this helps you with regard to air compressors. Okay, because I know some of you have probably never really delved into that, and I want to make sure that I didn't lead you off in the wrong place. You go buy the wrong compressor and nothing runs. You need a pretty stout compressor to to run an orbital sander that's air operated. Anyway, guys, signing out. Bye.